All right, we are very excited to be joined by the Russo brothers, Joe Russo, Anthony Russo. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today.
Of course, thanks for having us on, guys.
We normally so we got a lot to talk about, but I have to throw one thing out here at the start. It is Super Bowl week. I am a very large Cleveland Browns fan. I am a very large Avengers fan. And 2 years ago, I don't know if you guys saw it. I think your Twitter account retweeted it. I made a Cleveland Browns hype video in the style of the Avengers Endgame trailer. And it went viral, and it was very cool because I did it in March before the movie came out. They traded for Odell Beckham. You know, my dad's from Aurora, Ohio. We're like going to have, the first great season of my lifetime. I'm almost 30. And then they stunk. Actually, beyond that, David Njoku of the Browns was at our office. He asked for my Infinity Gauntlet on my desk, and I gave it. I'm not going to say no. So he took that. I thought, perfect. And they're going to look at my video when they win the Super Bowl. And they sucked. And I got roasted for that video for months. Every time the Browns lost, there'd be a new reply to this video, which I was so happy I made. And they're like, wow, bet you did wish you didn't make the Avengers Browns video now. But
wasn't your fault.
I got blamed for it, but it all comes full circle now. You guys being Cleveland guys, very excited to have you guys on the show to talk many different things.
Yeah, it was an awesome season. And, being a Cleveland Browns fan, it's a very tortured existence. And, I can remember walking downstairs in the basement and crying after, they lost to the Raiders in the playoffs. It wasn't until we never felt that ecstasy of a championship in our entire existence until LeBron. And we were in Italy at the time, up at 4 a.m, watching that game with our whole family. And I remember our 12-year-old cousin jumped up and screamed, "Finally!" And I was like, "You son of a bitch. I've been waiting 45 years for this feeling."
Have you guys seen Cherry yet?
We have not. We
didn't get a screener, and we were excited for it.
That's what we're going to come to next. I'll let Kenjack take the way. But Cherry,
there's a Browns Easter egg in it for you.
Ooh,
an old school Browns Easter egg
before your time.
It's a big Bernie Kosar jersey. He's wearing it the entire time. You never expected it. So Cherry, you guys.
You're close.
So you just mentioned Cherry. We're super excited for Cherry. What can you tell us? What's your pitch for it? What can we expect? Because the hype is really building up for it now. We're at the apex stage for the hype building.
It's a really intense movie. I mean, this isn't going to be everyone's cup of tea. This is about the opioid crisis. It's about trauma, it's PTSD. There's a lot of intense subject matter in it, but it's a conversation that certainly needs to be had. Growing up in Cleveland, Cleveland's on the front lines of the opioid crisis. Gen Z is on the front lines of the opioid crisis. I've got kids who are 20, 24 years old. These are important issues that we all need to be talking about. This is, this was the deadliest year for the opioid crisis. So it's still here. It's being overshadowed by other issues, but it's dramatic. And there's an existential blight that's sort of gripping, parts of the country. And I think a whole generation. So I don't know if that's a great sell job for the movie, but it's profound subject matter. And we're very happy that we were able to make it.
It's something very raw and very real. That's something us anyway, me and Jeff, we're very, very, I think, cognizant about not even just the opioid crisis, but addiction in general. And we always like to see it portrayed, thoughtfully and more accurately on screen. So we're pumped to watch this. As far as Tom Holland goes, when I look at you guys, I always feel like you're like Tom Holland's dad almost, because you guys have grown up with him. You've been part of his life, I feel like, since he's really, really been on the scene. Where would you put this among Tom's performances that you've seen?
Well, you've definitely never seen Tom anything like what he is in this movie. I mean, it is a bit of a coming of age role for him in a way, because he's dealing with mature, adult, dark themes and ideas and experiences to a degree that I think is going to seem shocking to some of his younger fans. But it's a very difficult role. There's not, it's like, in terms of degree of difficulty, it doesn't get harder than this role. Tom had to, not only is he play, he's playing a soldier, he's playing a drug addict, he's playing a bank robber, He's playing an innocent. It's the range of identities that he has to explore in this film is vast, and there's not a lot of people that could pull that off. So I think it's no matter how much of a Tom Holland fan you are, you're going to be surprised by what you see in this film.
Love that tease. And I like how it's described too, the wild journey of a disenfranchised young man from Ohio who meets the love of his life only to risk losing her through a series of bad decisions and challenging life circumstances. I love that we use just the fact that it's a disenfranchised young man, because I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, we're going to get to see sort of like the full circle about how, it's not just some like random guy just tries an opioid, now he's just addicted for life. There's like more to it. There's more like substantial factors that lead into that sort of cycle of addiction, right?
Yeah, it's about an entire life cycle. It's about 15 years of his life. And it's at the core, there's a very modern, tragic love story there. There's just two kids who make decisions that forever alter their lives that they don't have the life experience to make. It's not similar to like being at a party and popping oxy as a party drug, and then, waking up 20 years later through 11 stints of rehab and, on an IV in an emergency room. Like, this isn't, it's a movie that tries to deal with, exceedingly modern issues in a very direct way. And it explores a lot of genres at the same time, because the character in the book goes through a lot. He's a young kid in love. Then he's he goes through the absurd, military training that he finds absurd, the horrors of war, his mind starts to deteriorate on him, falls apart. He goes through emotional detachment of being a drug addict, and then a criminal to support that habit. And the movie ultimately is about hope and redemption, and that you can recover from the choices that you make, but they will cost you significantly.
Mm-hmm. We always were kind of thinking when we were just watching this trailer, is it sort of a breath of fresh air for you guys watching or making this, because you're so, I feel like, known for making these big budget, massive movies, and now you get the small, intimate, like small scale movie, right? Is that sort of like a breath of fresh air for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, throughout our entire careers, we've loved changing gears. We started off as sort of like no budget indie filmmakers that segued into like low budget indie filmmakers that turned into like a run in television for 10 years, TV comedy that turned into the MCU that turned into Cherry. It's just like, these are sort of radically different phases that we go through. We just naturally we love the entire range of what you can do with cinema. We're fans of the entire range of what you can do with cinema. And we like changing things up on ourselves. We like surprising ourselves. We like being able to use different muscles and go to fresh places. Because it's hard. Look at, the modern world is so media saturated, and we've all seen so many stories by this time. It's hard to keep surprising audiences, and it's hard to keep surprising ourselves. So we really have to sort of push ourselves into unexpected territory to find something on a creative level that we feel like is worth sort of diving into.
Cherry out February 26th, Apple TV Plus, going to be a big release. I see posters all over Manhattan now, but switching gears a little bit, let's talk about the MCU. Like I mentioned, we're fairly large fans. It was, for us, I know, a perfect wrap, the last two Avengers movies, and you guys have talked about some various things that maybe you kicked around the ideas on. I think Nova may have been thrown out there. Obviously, Wolverine had the option, but is there maybe one thing or character or moment that you haven't maybe shared with people that you thought about or really wanted to get in there, and looking there, you're like, man, I wish we could have maybe shoehorned that in the movie, but it just didn't make the cut?
Man, there's so many. If we showed you all the previs that we developed for action sequences that never made these films, the idea pile is huge. It's like as tall as the Empire State Building. So, can you think of anyone in particular?
This is a hard question for us to answer, because the stuff that we love most and that we're most passionate about, there's still a chance it may show up someday. It's hard for us to actually start talking publicly about it. But
there's so many things that we tried to do.
Yeah,
it's just too much at a certain point.
Yeah, we've now talked to you guys Paul Bettany and Anthony Mackie in the span of like a week and a half.
Oh,
And
wow.
getting to the Marvel stuff is so funny because it's just the dance around things. My last job, I worked for Good Morning America, and I helped write a question that Mark Ruffalo got at D23 about Infinity War. And he made a joke, and he's like, "Oh, everyone dies in the movie." And it went viral on YouTube, and then a year later, everybody died in the movie. And that he still gets shit for on Twitter because people are like, Mark Ruffalo spoiled the Infinity War. Like, have you guys caught yourselves at moments you're like, oh, even like right now, like, I don't know if you guys have watched WandaVision. Like, there's such a tightrope of things where it's like, it's almost impossible to talk about at times with anything in Marvel.
It is like working for the CIA, and you definitely like train your brain to, Anthony and I will formulate scripts when we go out to talk to press. So we're just kind of like, we're talking in sort of a very defined area so we don't slip. But it's funny when he said that because it's like, well, who the hell is going to believe him that we're going to kill everybody anyways?
I am glad to know that you were behind that. So thanks for that.
That was
Thanks for that.
And when he answered, because I knew a little about the snap. I'm like, wait a second, he may be right there. That might not be lying.
I love that though, because we always do hit that line, like Jeff said, and always like you could see the silhouette of the guy with the Marvel badge and a shotgun come on screen, and the back is around every time.
Something that did happen in the movie, and this has been something that I've always wanted to ask you guys, because I found the connection of the quote in the movie, the whatever it takes. And, Cap swears and he says, "Hail Hydra," and, Stark does different things. And there's always been kind of like a little debate about that online. People are like, well, Cap would never do that. But I always viewed that as that's literally doing whatever it takes. He had to say "Hail Hydra." Was that kind of the idea behind those characters? Like, they're doing these things that are out of character because it is doing whatever it takes to get these people back. They had to change.
You've lost half of the universe. Like, there are no greater stakes than that. If you can't alter yourself or alter your internal ethics for it, then what are you doing? So heroism takes all forms, and they have to do whatever they have to do to get it done. So I don't know. We never we only found that as like characters need to stretch and grow, otherwise they become stale. And especially when you're doing 22 movies with the same characters, if they don't surprise you as it evolves, then that's a mistake. And somebody made some bad choices.
Jeff mentioned Captain America. You guys have said that Captain America is sort of in a branch reality. Do you know how that plays out at all?
No idea. I mean,
we got to try, all right?
But is that
I will say one of the great thrills of doing Endgame, though, was, we at that point we had worked with Marcus and McFeely for 4 films, telling a continuous narrative. And I can't tell you how liberating it was to be able to finish and deliver Endgame without any idea or any thought about how it moves forward from there. Because we were up until that point, it was always about how do we move forward? And it was very creatively liberating to not have that burden any longer.
And one thing that's clear that, Anthony and I have discussed, I don't know that we've discussed this publicly at all, but Cap would have had to have traveled back to the main timeline. That's something that he would have been in a branch reality and have had to have traveled back to the main timeline to give that shield to Sam Wilson.
So you're saying the end of the movie would be the main timeline? Because I think that is some people are like,
correct. Yes.
Okay. I actually don't know if I don't know if I knew that. Okay.
I mean, in our internal logic that we defined for in the room, that was the choice that we made, was based on everything that happened. He would have been in a branch reality and then had to have shifted over to this, so jumped from one to the other, right, and have handed the shield off.
You know what? No one has been able to explain timelines and realities better than you guys have, especially the back and forths in Endgame. So
we had some experience and Community with it. So
exactly. So as directors, you're obviously limited from using the X-Men. You couldn't use them. It reminds me of the Howard Stark line, I was limited by the technology of my time because that deal happened too late for you guys to obviously fold them in. But if you could have folded them in, how would you? Because I read or I saw an interview where you guys had said the one thing you would have really wanted to see is Wolverine versus Thanos, like a very highly motivated Wolverine versus Thanos. But like, what else? Was there any other way you'd want to fold in more of the X-Men?
I mean, it's, one of the first books I ever bought, it was like it was like finding gold in a trash bin. I was at a garage sale and I found Incredible Hulk 181, which is the first appearance of Wolverine. It was worth a lot of money, and the person at the garage sale was selling it for like 10 cents or something. And I was like, I got the golden ticket, And so Wolverine's always been like a very special character for me. So to be able to realize him on screen, it's very hard because Hugh Jackman's performance is definitive. It's like Batman. It's like you have to really think of a way to, you have to really find the right actor to come in and give a very different take to that character. But I would love to see him on screen. I think the best thing is to take a break without question. Because I think you need a sorbet, you need to rinse the palate a little bit, let everyone enjoy what was, and then come up with something new. But I'd love to take a crack at Wolverine at some point.
That's got to be a big challenge. I mean, whether it's, I don't know, maybe you guys or just like Kevin Feige in general and Marvel, is how do you fold them in now? Because it's a lot of characters. That isn't just one. It's not Spider-Man, just one kid that you can do. It's a whole universe. Now, obviously, it looks like the universe is breaking up, or like into a different reality. So that might be the way to do it. Might be the
it's definitely dimensionalizing. And I think since Kevin's taken over from the New York group, it's got more diverse, more complex, richer, more interesting. The tones are broadening. There's the shackles have come off it in a way, and I think where they're going with it is fascinating. I think it's it's groundbreaking, and Kevin has a penchant for experimentation, so that initial run of 22 movies is, we've never seen anything like that before. So I'm sure he's going to go somewhere just as interesting.
Yeah, already seen that a little bit with WandaVision. Now, talking about theater experiences, obviously you mentioned Cherry, which will be on Apple TV Plus as well, February 26th, but just theaters in general, which is crazy to think now, like imagining had Avengers Endgame or Infinity War or anything like that come out during this time where theaters are not as easily accessible. But you guys have seen so many reactions to that movie. The only movie that I think it was acceptable to pull your phone out and film people in, because it was just the most, everyone wanted to see how people were reacting. Myself,
Guilty.
Yeah, right. Imagine if you had been kicked out of your own movie. It's like, sir, Ken Jack and I, and then one of our other coworkers, we went to a press screening for Disney, and it was some stuffy press people, and then
we looked
three
like
idiots
assholes
crying in the back. Yeah, it's just
it was us and Richard Brody from the New York Times right in front of us, taking it very seriously, and then us like crying like babies.
I'm just laughing. The portals are opening, and I'm just like, this is and again, that relates to me being a Cleveland fan. I'm like, this is my first win. This is a win watching the Avengers come back. But is there a favorite for you guys? Is there like a favorite moment or thing that you've seen that kind of even exceeded your like, wow, this is truly unreal?
I was going to mention before we go into that, the issue about the timing with the pandemic and the fact that Endgame came out beforehand. And so Mitch Hurwitz, who created Arrested Development, said that claims that Joe and I engineered COVID
so you can stay on top.
That nobody could ever match the experience of Endgame after, which is not true. But
good. I'm glad we can debunk that. Yeah.
Allegedly.
Yeah. So is there a moment in the films that we made,
or just in general, that you've seen of like people's reactions to it that maybe even kind of blew you away of how passionate people really are about just the ending of all of it?
I mean, we get the goosebumps looking at those reaction videos. I mean, that's a profound experience to have as a filmmaker, and being super geeks ourselves and growing up playing Dungeons and Dragons and watching every sort of pop culture show or movie that came out, to be able to sit there and relate that to the experience that we had being in Indiana Jones or being in Empire Strikes Back or being in Return of the Jedi, those feelings that lifted us, to be able to give those to a new generation, it's like the greatest gift that as a filmmaker can have, and I think Eric can receive. But when they come out of the portals, I mean, we were at the Westwood Theater on opening night. It was a Thursday night, like an 11 p.m. screening, and it was packed. And the place just went crazy. And I don't think we'll ever top that experience.
My favorite moment from that was when the portals, just as the portals are opening, and Cap hears Sam say, "On your left," and when everybody sort of finally realized what was happening, that the kid in front of me jumps up and goes with a big fist pump, and he goes, "On your fucking left." I particularly like that.
It's
so cool.
It's true. I actually, the second time I saw it, I was going to film our friend, and I got so lost upset. I was like, well, never mind. Missed that. I'll have to watch it on YouTube. And last thing on the moments, everyone has their favorite. Usually boils down to Thor and Wakanda Infinity War, Cap with the hammer, or the portals. Do you guys have a favorite? Do you have a favorite moment?
All three of those, like those are, I don't know, probably Cap with the hammer, because that's the full circle for us.
Yeah.
Worked with that character for a long time. And it was a great payoff for him as a character. And the way Evans played that character, he had such integrity. Like it's one of the great characters in movie history because of his performance, that you just want to see him win,
Yeah.
You just want to root for this guy. And that moment turned the tide in that fight. And, it's like Rocky getting up off the mat, and, in round 12, like it just inspires you.
It was also fun, just that moment from Joss's movie where Cap touches the hammer and you're not quite sure if it moved or not. It was such an intriguing moment. It was such a delicious moment. It was really fun to be able to pay that off.
I still say the most underrated one of the movie, though, in Endgame at least, is the fake out in the elevator. I thought that was maybe your best comedic work that you guys had, because you really thought, you're like, they're going to do it again, and then the head fake was quite
It was a very Community-esque moment.
Yes, extremely Community-esque. That's first thought.
Couple quick things before we go here. Reminder. Cherry, February 26th. But another thing that you've mentioned in the future, you mentioned this, the Pizza Film School stuff, which I know everyone loved. You guys talked about Star Wars a lot. You mentioned Star Wars is kind of like the thing in the future. You'd love to do Star Wars. We know Kevin Feige is going to be producing a Star Wars movie, it sounds like. Is there a story that you guys want to tell, or like a favorite thing that you're like, oh, that'd be kind of the way to go, especially now that they're really opening the floodgates and you can kind of go. I mean, Taika Waititi's Star Wars movie, they already said is going to be bananas. So it could be anything. I mean,
I think if we were to do something in that universe, we go to some far corner of it and do something different and new, and maybe move away from all of the old mythology and create a new mythology, but just that had the same ethos and spirit. That would probably be our approach. I mean, there's some great stuff going on. I mean, talk about awesome moments. The season 2 ender of Mandalorian. I mean, come on. That was like, I think I watched that. Like, my kids are like, are you watching that again? Yes, leave me alone.
And that's a great show that it exists in the periphery of Star Wars. It's not in the main storyline. It's like you said, it's in a far corner. And that's what we want. We want to see something cool and different. And we'd love to see you guys as part of that. One more thing, The Gray Man, another thing you guys are working on. Ana de Armas, Chris Evans, Ryan Gosling, huge cast. Is there anything you can tell us about that?
Yeah, we start shooting it in March. We're really excited. It's a spy thriller. And yeah, we're just... we're raring to go on it. It's just we've been pushing the start date a bit because of COVID, waiting for a safer window, but hopefully we can get going in March.
It's like a modern interpretation of spy thriller, with Bond is another, franchise we grew up on. And this is, our opportunity to go play in that, the spy sandbox. And, we love infusing our, these big pop culture films with modern thematics and modern politics. So there's a lot of, it's a lot of issues wrapped up in the movie about what's going on in the world today and how espionage plays a role in that.
Are you going to do this, the formula of the post Avengers, Chris Evans wears a cable knit sweater? Is that going to be like he did in Knives Out?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. No, I don't know. No, he's going to wear some crazy shit in this one. He's really unique character. And this is Evans as a villain. So it's a really, it's a really interesting character. And I think he's going to get to flex quite a bit in this role.
All right, last thing, and I won't prod you too much. I don't want Disney to not let you guys do it anymore. But we know Hercules is on the horizon. Do you know a lot? Do you have a lot of things planned out for that already that you just don't quite know yet?
I mean, look, it's still in development. The script's about to come in a week. It's we've taken a lot of time and care with it. It's a movie that was really important to me and my kids. Something that they watched when they were young, and so we've got a strong emotional connection to it. Our intention is to look at everything we do and think about how can we build it out, right? What can you do with this that sort of expands it and gives you different opportunities for storytelling in it? And so we're going through that same exercise with Hercules: is can we build it out? Can we build a world out of this? That extends beyond it, that would be compelling. And I think that's what audiences are craving, right? They want to see something really cool and then they want to get lost in it for a decade. So, that's our mission, is to provide them with, that experience.
So still a little pre-production
truth.
Yeah.
Some good songs.
Yeah, exactly.
So little
still early.
Okay, early. Okay. Probably didn't cast and all that. So we appreciate you guys taking time. Actually, there was one, I almost skipped over one important thing. And this was because, again, I watched WandaVision this morning. Do you guys know what's going on in the universe? Or are you just fans now again for the temporary time being? Even though you did say you couldn't tell us things that you said they could be in the future, but are you like firmly in the fan zone right now where you're not learning things ahead of time?
We're not we know some things, but we don't sort of reach beyond. We are mostly in the fan zone,
which is fun.
Yeah,
and it's fun to be able to go back and watch that stuff again and be surprised by where they're going with it.
Thank you so much for doing this. I didn't even get to talk about my favorite show of all time, Arrested Development. Hopefully you have another chance to talk to you guys, because that I could go on for days and days and days. But maybe we'll talk to you again soon for one of these future movies. Again, we appreciate it. Go Browns. And thank you so much, guys. Good luck with the release of Cherry. We cannot wait.
Thank you.
Guys. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Guys. Anytime you guys want to come back, we could do all Arrested Development, all Community, if you ever want to come
Happy
back.
to do it.
Enjoy the GameStop saga.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man.